Alright guys, so this is basically Zooka Basics and Zooka Intermediate and Zooka Advanced. So what we're going to cover here is, it's going to be a video series. We're going to cover everything you need to know about Zookas, starting from basically just being in a task force and being a productive team member. And we'll kind of go from there. So there's some things that you need to know first about being in a task force, and an all Zooka task force. Typically, to be an all Zooka player, there's some things that you have to have in order to be capable of doing this. And the first thing you need to have is a bunch of GBE statues. For those that don't know, GBE statues, you have a masterpiece, and then you can have several MPs. On GBE, 17, that's a terrible 7, is the highest guardian you can have, I think they call it. And then, so if you have a bunch of guardians, there's a bunch of different ways to lay out your statues, but typically, most players run either, and it's placed in a number system, so they either call it 5-5, 6-4, 4-6. The first number refers to the amount of GBE that you have, and then the second number refers to the amount of troop health or troop damage. So it'd be troop damage and then troop health. So if you were a 6-3-1 player, 10 statues, you'd be 6 GBE, 3 health, or 3 troop damage and 1 troop health. Typically, and it kind of depends, you need a mixture of all 3 or 4 types of GBE players. You need a couple of guys with 6-4, you need a couple of guys that are 5-5, you need a couple of guys that are a combination of troop health, and then you might need a couple of guys that are basically 6 troop damage, 4 GBE. All for various reasons that we'll cover later on in the videos. Typically, 6-4 and 5-5 are your standard deals, or 5-4-1. And I'll show you another example of a 5-4-1 on my other account. Well, what 5-4-1 does for you is it lets you map clear a little better. So here's a 5-4-1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 guardians, a troop health masterpiece, and then 4 troop damages. And then if you ever want to know what your GBE is, you click on the eye on your boat, and you add these two numbers, 52 plus 57, tells you that your starting GBE is 109 unboosted. Pretty simple. So if you were to basically go into any battle and attack, you're going to see your starting GBE over here is 109. It's pretty self-explanatory right there. So if you ever have to calculate or want to know how much GBE you have, that's basically how you do it. So from there, you need to have, wrong one. You need to go into your armory, and you need to have the highest level Zookas you can have possible. Highest level is 21 currently in the game. You typically want to have smoke and flare levels as high as you can have, which is 7 for flares and level 6 for smokes, 14 seconds on the smoke. And then shocks is important, shock bombs. And then after that, it's kind of a toss-up between your artilleries, your barrage, and your critters. Critters do help the higher level they are. Having 12 critters versus 6 critters when you start, or 5 critters, is a pretty big deal because it doubles the amount of distraction that they can cause. So that's the next couple of things that you want to work on. And then as a supplementary, I highly recommend that you choose a second set of troops that you like to clear your map with, whether that be RZM, tank meds, warriors, heavy Zooka, however you want to go about it. So I would try to, as you're making your Zookas go up, try to get another troop combination that you like to use all the time. Like for me, I don't ever use Scorchers. I need to get them trained up. Mine are only level 2 because I never use them. I use T-Meds more often, or Warriors, or just flat-out Zookas to do a lot of my map clearing. And Dr. T and Mega Crab and stuff like that. Now, when you're a lower level, I would say below level 54, 55, I recommend, so like a lot of these guys, let's look at one of my guys' bases here. So we're looking at Snark. He's running basically a masterpiece reward. While you're trying to grow your account, I recommend having one of these. So a masterpiece is going to help you upgrade the things that you need to upgrade faster, which is your boats. Getting your boats to level 20, it should be your first goal, and then from there, 21, 22. Basically, that's that. And so he is running a PSC here. I want to talk about the Power Stone chance for a minute. I've talked to a lot of the guys in Smoke and Turtles, and so I'm going to cite 2 cases in particular. And this is a terrible statue to have right here, Snark. You should dump this. 51% is garbage. So the way these work is on a player base, you have basically a certain percentage of chance, and I don't know the exact numbers, but we'll just say it's 50%. So if you have a 50% chance to get any kind of stone, right? And then that gives you a 50% chance more, then you're getting half a 50% chance. So now you're getting an extra, actually I don't even think it's 50, I think, so let's say, I actually think it's, to get a crystal, it's like 7%. Oops. So not just a stone, but a crystal. I think you have a 50% chance on a player base to get intel, and maybe it's like 30% chance to get a stone, but I don't quote me on the numbers. I'm not exactly sure, but I know what it ends up equaling is you have, I think it's a 7% chance to get a crystal, which is the largest stone that you can get. If you add that 50% chance, you have 50% more of 7%, so that increases your odds by, 50% of 7 is 3.5, so now you have a 10.5% chance on a player base to get a crystal, right? That's terrible. So you're burning a whole statue for an extra 3.5% chance to get a crystal. There's been a bunch of YouTube videos of guys that have had 7 or 8 boosted statues, and basically what it equivalented to is they would get 1 extra crystal per day. And that's basically what the Smoke guys say that are running, a 78% chance, Power Stone chance, I think is the top one. You get, they basically say you end up with an extra over what you would normally get 7 power powder a week. Now, what I tell my guys is there's no reason to have a masterpiece Power Stone chance if you're not getting a ridiculous amount of intel a week. Usually over 140. If you're getting over 140 intel a week, which none of my guys are, I think we got Perrin here with 65, TE Man with 68, and we're towards the end of the week here. You're not hitting enough player bases in order to give that stone a chance. Now, what I always tell my guys is there's 3 things that give you power stones. You get your daily boat, and you always pick your power stones out of your daily boat. On your map, when you get your blue chest, always pull your power stones out of your blue chest. And whenever you're diving for crystals, you always dive for the crystals, period. So if you go to your diving map, you try to find whatever is going to give you the most crystals right here. So I probably wouldn't choose this one because I'm not guaranteed to get crystals out of it unless everything else sucks. then I might go for that. But I definitely would take this one because I'm going to get 4 out of it for sure. And that's something. And so if you do those 3 things, the Power Stone chance has nothing to do with that. You're going to get those every day, all day long. Another thing is on this Power Stone thing, me and a friend of mine that was in the task force that's still in the family, we both joined Aggro Dragons at the same time. He had a 78 Power Stone chance. Never ever boosted anything. He ran unboosted the whole time we were there. We both joined the task force with about, I think we had about 80 powder each. I boosted at least, I boosted my RR every day when I would clear my map, and I would boost a couple of times. And after 45 days, I think it was, I had 2 less powder than he did. And he had that stupid PSC. And then once, we had realized that, he immediately dumped his PSC, and he felt kind of jilted about that. That he had basically, has been wasting this statue, and he was a really smart dude, and he just said, I can't believe that I've had this entire time, and you don't have one, and you're getting just as much powder as I am. And, to kind of give you a hint, I'm running 251, and, that was, I boost a little bit more than I should, but we're going to, leave that at that. I think until you're pretty much a backspace, having a Power Stone chance is not a good idea. Now, if you're a much lower player and you're like in the 20s, 30s, and 40s maybe, run 6 or 7 of them stupid things and clear your map and boost them, and you'll get mad powder, and your powder will look like this. If you want to know how people end up getting power powders, where you've got 2,000, 140, 1,600 power powder, that's what they do. They run 7 or 8 of those things when they're a little teeny tiny base, when you can pretty much warrior the crap out of everything, and they clear their map every other day or every day, and that's where you build powder. You don't want to build powder late game. It's much harder to do it because the bases are harder to hit. And again, see, there you go. Just got six shards or whatever. Troop health 11. We're going to dump that. I'm searching for another 17 here on a Guardian. I'm thinking about going to 5-5 on this base. So, but that's that. That's what your that's my deal with the Power Stones. I think at task force level, they're just not worth it. You're better off just going to a no boost team and dealing with just not boosting and building until you get better at your Zookas, because you're just not hitting enough player bases until you get 140 intel to do that. So the next thing we're going to go into here, this is going to be a long video. So we've basically covered everything that you need to know about what you need to be a Zooka player. So then, now we're going to do some friendly challenges here. Basically, we're going to talk about a couple of different kinds of landings. So, the first landing is your basic, I've got a free beach landing, and I'm going to come over here into the corner, and we're going to drop our boats and get our Zookas grouped up one at a time, either going left or right, and then get them pointed in the direction that they need to go in for attack. So that's your basic right to left, left to right landing with your Zookas. The next type of landing we're going to talk about is a 2-smoke landing, or with the triangle. And that's probably a good base to do it on. So on this one, what we want to do is we want to cover the boats with, and it depends on the op, but you want to cover the boats with the 2 smokes. And then land the Zookas in the middle. Throw your 3rd smoke. Sorry, I paused to think about something for a minute. I'm doing this kind of live instead of like making these and showing them to you later, so I'm probably screwing up a bunch. But that's your 2 smoke landing right there. And, you know, you got to work on your spaces, on how far your smokes need to be apart so you don't have this gap in the middle. I should probably be making these and then reviewing them in a replay with, you know, so that I'm doing the Madden replays. But we're going to just keep doing this because I think I've showed this before. The next type of landing you have is typically where you have a base defense right on the beach like this. So you want to do 2 smokes and an L smoke and then flag into here. And this smoke probably should have been more placed like this. The normal beaches for player maps are not really conducive to this type of landing, but you can make it work. So that would be an L smoke landing, and that's just a flag landing with no flare. The next type of landing that you can do is a 1 smoke landing. So basically, you put 1 smoke out here for the girls, and you flag up into it. And there you go. All your girls are getting in there pretty much with no damage. You know, if it's possible, like this may not be the best situation for this, but that's, you know, we're just showing you the different types of landings and smokes that you can do, not how effective they are on this base. That's pretty much all of the landings. There is one more that I've seen that I've never seen somebody pull off effectively. Let me see if Snark Space is a little better for this. Not really. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get a better base for this landing. You have to have a complete and totally clear landing to pull this off. But what you basically need to do is you put a flare in the middle, and I've only ever seen this one time used effectively in operations, and why you would do this I have no idea, but that's, I don't know, split landing. Like I said, I've only ever seen it done once. You know, it kind of is what it is. The other way that you can go with this is when you're doing a heavy Zooka triangle smoke, or you're going to launch a Scorcher, what you do is you basically land all your troops going from one direction to the other. Now keep in mind, after I tap my first and second boat out on the beach, I'm tapping the boats. I'm not tapping the beach anymore. And I've discussed this in a previous video about, you can see how they're basically walking in 3 lines to where they're going, and I just totally jacked this up. So, but you tap the boats. You don't tap the beach after you get the first 2 boats down, because then your boats are, they're going to walk a similar path, whether in 2 or 3 lines. You actually see some of the smoke guys are just really good at this, and their girls are actually, you can see them walking 2 lines on the beach versus 3 lines. So if this is kind of like a setup, if you were going to run like heavy Zooka with 3 boats, let's say this tower over here is the core, you're going to flare, you know, up somewhere near the core, Drop your 2 boats of heavies, smoke them in, then throw your triangle smokes, and then flare the object, and then your heavies will rush up to the front, and you'll be, you know, golden, good to go. Of course, I don't have heavies loaded here, but that's what we call the reverse triangle smoke on this type of setup, where you launch either a scorcher or heavies, you know, late after the fact. Usually the count's 2 or 3 seconds on that. So that's basically the different kinds of landings that we're going to discuss for this video number 1. You know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't understand what we're going for here, I mean, that's basically Zooka 101. Everything to me is getting them off the boats and keeping them grouped up. Your attack goes much better if you can group them better in the beginning. You have a higher chance of success. You know, you gotta have patience and unload them in a controlled manner. That's the thing about Zookas, is learning how to control them and timing everything right, so that they get off the boats the right way, and you can get in there and basically you know, chew people to pieces. Let's see here, what level is Dragon? He's 55, so Snark Fin's probably much lower, so we're gonna bag on Snark here, I think, for a sec, and kind of show what you can do with your oh, he's a 54 too. So you kind of show, you know, what you can do with Zookas and how powerful that they can be if you know how to use them properly. Kind of fucked up right there on that, but that's okay. So try to get them all in right here. I'm just going to land them in a flag landing and 2 smoke them up to that area. I'll probably eat a little bit of crap on the RLs, but that's okay. It's a pretty low level base. Get them walking over this way. Hopefully we don't eat too many mines here. And I'm going to reflare them to the center of my smoke, and then reflare to the HQ. All the girls are under 1 smoke, and we'll probably just throw some critters out here and let that ride. Don't even need to use shocks sometimes with Zookas. That's how powerful they can be. Level 54 goes down, no shocks. All of my critters are still alive. I just use them to distract the turrets. That is how powerful Zookas could be. Yeah, I lost 48, but I mean, I'm kind of, how do you say, showing off just a little bit with the, you know, late on the critters, and that's just how fast. It's 1 shot, HQ goes down, and you're basically over it. So I could have thrown probably med kits on those Zookas and not have lost any of them, or, you know, very few. In addition to, instead of shocking or critters, or there's different ways that you can play that. But I digress. So that's basically the basics of Zookas 101. What you need to have, and what you can do with them. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about real quick before we go, and it's task forces. You need to, being part of a task force, the idea is just to work as a team. So typically you're going to have a couple officers, and they're going to write some notes, and you need to follow the notes. So this one right here says AZ Core Rush from 9 o'clock, and this is the finished play. This one's got a bunch of notes. First note, AZ the RLs, you know, so on and so on, and follow the notes. The way that we do notes is they're broken down into steps. So typically, if you're successful in your attack and you do all the right things, this base should go down in basically 3 attacks for conveyor. And then if we're going to look at conveyor, which I don't think has been attacked yet, we're going to take this down in 3 attacks, unboosted with Zookas. Because we're working together as a team and we're following the notes, And the other thing you need to do is you need to check in. Sometimes, let's say, guy number 1 goes and he gets the note number 1 done, and then guy number 2 goes and he only gets and he does note number 2 and part of number 3. Well, then the notes change, and then maybe an officer needs to foresee that or whatever, or the other members of your task force. So you check in to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And the other thing a check-in is for is so that you guys are basically claiming your spot to your attack. You want to, let everybody know, hey, this is the attack that I want. If an officer's on, usually they'll tell you go ahead right away. Sometimes they'll ask you to hit a different map. Typically, higher level players should take the harder attacks, not the easier solos. And from there, then everybody kind of has an idea of what's going on. That way, you just don't jump in there and attack a base where a guy may have been loading for an hour and calculating GBE, and then you jump in there and you take the attack and either fail or succeed. It doesn't matter. You just jump the line. So that's the whole point of the check-in, is it's courteous to your teammates. The officers, it's not a controlling thing that we're trying to treat you like a child or anything. It's a professional courtesy to the other players around you, and it's teamwork. And trying to come together as a team. That's basically at the core of what you try to accomplish as a task force in operations, is to come together as a team with a common goal. That's it. And then if you have a question on the notes, or if you think that there's a better way, ask, or have an officer say. And I can tell you for certain, in Dragons, we don't always choose the easiest way, because 1, we're an unboosted team, and 2, if you look at this is Fox. We've got 18 attacks remaining. We had 2 solos, and low point went down in 3 hits. No? Yeah, 3 hits. Low point went down in 3 hits. Conveyor, and then, so, looks like we've got a fail on conveyor. But, basically, I've got 18 attacks to finish 2 bases. That means 9 attacks per base. This one's slotted for 3 attacks, and this one's slotted for another 3 attacks. So, we're, so basically, we should finish this with 13 attacks remaining or so, 13, 12 attacks. That's like half the task force, and we killed Fox, unboosted, with Zookas. I'm kind of stretching these last 2 bases out just a little bit. So we don't always choose the easiest way in Dragons, because we're trying to fit in everybody depending on the base, what's going on. We may kill some extra stuff just to give people more practice. So you have to understand that about Dragons. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and end the video right here, and go ahead and start the next one in this series.